I guess you guys have been noticing the last couple weeks that there's been different content on my channel, and it's getting more to be about me and my vlogging. So we're gonna change some format here on the channel. I'm gonna make it more about me. Fuck that! Are you crazy? No, hell no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna talk about drones on this channel. So let's go ahead and get right to it. All right guys, welcome back to the shop. We're gonna talk about a new micro brushless today, and this thing is awesome. This is from Furiousfpv. It's the Mosquito 70. I don't know if you have a brushless micro yet, but if you don't, stop what you're doing and buy a brushless micro. I've had so much fun with these in the last couple weeks. They're insane. They have a ton of power. It's like tiny whoop outdoors. Now what's cool about this is that it opens up new flight spaces. You can search out new spots, smaller spots than before. You could fly your 5-inch quad. Some of these 5-inch quads that I have up here on the wall, they haven't quite been out in the field as much lately because I've been flying a lot of smaller stuff. And the cool thing about small stuff is it's cheaper to fix. It takes me less time to fix it. And the power to weight ratio on these for the throttle punch outs, it's starting to get really insane. So with this Mosquito 70, it's called the Perfect Whoop. I have the Fly Sky version here. I'm gonna show you this a little closer up in just a second. And I'm gonna give you a flight demo with the prop guards on and without the prop guards on, so you guys can see what it flies like right out of the box. I haven't touched any PIDs from the factory with Betaflight on it, the way it comes to you after you buy it. Now this is about $250, which in my opinion, you know how I am about price. I like to do stuff on the cheap. I think that this is very expensive for a brushless micro, but what you're getting here is absolutely insane. Furiousfpv, they know what they're doing. This is a really good product. So with the amount of fun factor in this that's compacted into this little tiny micro, it's worth the money. So let's go ahead and take a little closer look, and then we'll go outside and we'll do a real world flight test of this little Mosquito 70. All right guys, here it is, the Mosquito 70 on the bench from Furiousfpv. Check them out on furiousfpv.com. You can check them out in the link below. So let's go ahead and get started talking about this. It says Mosquito 70 on the box, the perfect whoop. Would I call this a whoop? Not really. I mean, this thing is killer. You can fly it indoors, you can fly it outdoors, but outdoors is where the real fun begins with this, because I was just like shooting tree gaps with this thing, doing flips through tree gaps. And the nicest thing about it is, versus some of the brushed ones like we've shown on this channel before, is that this has brushless motors on it. It has little teeny tiny, what are these, 1102s, 10,000 kV. That's pretty insane. I wasn't sure about the props that came on it, and I've seen some other reviewers where the props flew off. I was able to fix that problem with one small tweak, and some of you purists might not like it, but it works. But let's go ahead and talk about the specifics of this quad. It's 70 millimeters, guys. This is super tiny. The ESCs are packed up inside here, and I'll hold it up to the light just a little bit. You might be able to see that little black profile of the ESC up inside that little ESC cover right there. It also doubles as the landing gear. You got a nice surrounded shroud over top of the camera, front and back, so the camera is totally enclosed in here, which is also super cool. In my crash tests, I crashed quite a few times with this because I was trying to see what this thing was capable of, and I was worried that I was going to break props because I thought the props were pretty chintzy. They feel pretty plasticky, and they're small props, so I was, you know, expecting to break some props. No big deal. They're pretty cheap. I didn't break a single prop so far. They bent, but I just bent them back and everything was fine. Now I did take a piece of hot glue and put on the bottom of the beeper right here just to hold the beeper down, because the beeper comes awfully close to these front props right here. Very close. I mean, millimeters close. But the ESCs on board, let's see what kind of ESCs we got going here. We have 7 amp ESCs, and they're built into the arms, like I said before, and we have that Furiousfpv flight controller on there. We'll go into detail about that a little bit later. We're also rocking a 25 milliwatt transmitter. I was able to get pretty far out there, and the receiver that's built into this one, this is the FR Sky version, you can get pretty far. I was able to get way out there in the field with this. Also rocking a JST on the back of here. I was gonna switch that out to an XT30 because I've been doing that a lot lately with this brushless quads that I have, but I wanted to keep it stock and fly it exactly how it came out of the box for you guys and show you what it's capable of without doing any mods. Now the battery doesn't come with a battery, so let's talk about that real quick. The battery that I use, it's a Furibee. I'll put a link down to those below. This is a 7.4 volt 2S, and it's a 400 milliamp. Now this is nice because it's skinny and it'll fit between the narrow gap underneath the landing gear. You can't get the larger, wider batteries, 2S batteries, on the bottom of this unless you kind of just rubber band it hanging out the bottom like this far. So these fit really, really nice. They're a narrow profile and they work really well. Tons of punch out with these. Now the props on here are 45 millimeter and they're designed specifically for the Mosquito 70 by Furiousfpv. Also, the flight controller is running Race Whoop flight firmware on there. So if you go to update this, the USB port is on the side right here, and like some other quads in the past that we've had on the channel, I can't get to it because there's a post in the way. Not a big deal, because you know what? You can just about take this entire thing apart with a Phillips head screwdriver. So that is awesome. 4 bolts on the top right here, and you can pop the top and get right down to the stack. Now they have that, I believe that's the L1000 style receiver that they have in there, and they boast that that goes about a mile away, 1 kilometer actually. So I don't know how far the range is on this yet. I haven't tested it, but I do have it set up to drop, and that's not a huge deal if I go out of range because I have a beeper on this little guy and it works very well. And it also comes with the firmware that was on there is actually from December 2016, so it's fairly new and updated. You have 2 sections of rubber bands on here that wrap around and go inside the post right here on the frame. And as I'm talking about this design right now that you're looking at, on their website it says 1103 motors on there. Furiousfpv 1103 10,000 kV with Japanese NSK bearings. Now, I don't have 1103s, Furious. If you'd like to send me some 1103s, I would love to put them on there. But for now, these 1102s are actually rocking this little quad's world quite well. So I'm pretty happy with everything that's on there. You also have race band on here for multi-GP going micro brushless this year. That's super cool. You can get to the button underneath right here with a little tiny screwdriver. If you just press underneath there, you can change up to about 40 different channels, and I believe 5 bands on there as well. Now, some of you guys might be wondering if it's compatible with your radio. Yes, most definitely. We have FR Sky, we have Spectrum, Futaba, and Fly Sky transmitters available for this setup. Now, you can run DSMX Spectrum on there, and it's compatible with the DX6, the DX6E, DX7, DX8, DX9, and DX9E. Also compatible with JR transmitters as well. Also in the box, you get a little tiny screwdriver that comes along with it. It's way on the other side of the bench, so I'm not going to get it. You've seen what a little tiny screwdriver looks like, but like I was saying, you can take the whole thing apart, top to bottom, with that little screwdriver, and that's awesome. Now, like I said, it does have that Furiousfpv flight controller on there. It was specifically designed for the Mosquito 70. It is actually 16 millimeter by 16 millimeter. That's one of the smallest, littlest, tiniest flight controllers out there. Super tiny. And if you're going to work on this, you want to have a pretty sharp tip on your soldering iron. Very important that you do kind of some more low temp soldering on this little tiny board if you need to get in there and do any soldering. This thing has pretty much everything that I want in a micro, with the mild exception it doesn't have OSD, and that's not a huge big deal because it has an onboard beeper that has 2-stage beeper. It beeps once and very slowly for the first section of getting down to low voltage. When you get to a critical voltage, it has a second stage which starts to beep really annoyingly fast, which is great because you don't want to kill your battery. By the way, that little flight controller only supports 1 to 2S. Don't try to rock 3S on this, you guys, or you're going to blow this board. It is specifically designed, like I said, it's called the Race Whoop flight controller. So when you go to update that firmware, look for that specific name inside Betaflight. It is there, so you can update it. They're going to have updates regularly. You can also check out the full manual on Furiousfpv.com's website. It's on the very bottom of that page. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see actually a firmware hex on there as well, so pretty cool. Now, I think one of the cons about this is the fact that it is so expensive. This is a really expensive little brushless micro. I mean, we're talking $250 here, bind and fly, and that plug and fly. That's kind of expensive for something so small. But the price is kind of, the fun that I'm having with this is a major amount of fun. If I was at the field, I would tell you to get your damn hands off of it. It's my Mosquito 70. The bro rule applies to this one. Don't let your bro fly your Mosquito for sure, because they're probably going to break it and then you're going to cry about it and wait for parts. So looking at their website, I want to talk about parts because the parts on there are actually pretty damn cheap. You can buy new JST connectors, you can buy a new buzzer for it, and everything is in, it seems like it's in like the $5 range. A new motor is $10.95. I'm looking at their site. A new plastic camera mounts, $3.95. A new ducted frame for around the edge. This little guy here is actually $6.95. And a new frame, a new carbon frame for the Mosquito 70 is just $4.95. So if you break a few things on it, if you make an order for one, I would spend maybe $20 on parts when you first make your order. If you're going to buy one of these, I would grab maybe an extra frame. I would definitely buy some extra props. And let me see if I can find the props on their site real quick. Props are $3.95 for, it looks like four sets. No, 2 sets of props are $3.95. Not too bad. Go ahead and order a couple packs of those. But like I said, from all my flight tests, I haven't even broke a prop yet. They bent a little bit and they just seem to keep on flying. But you have to watch out. They do come really dangerously close to the frame. Make sure all your wires are tucked up inside there. I took a little bit of VHB and held that, actually VTX wire down up inside there so it doesn't slip out and hit the prop. It is super close. Now, the flight controller on their site is actually $34.95, so it's competitively priced. It's not overpriced. It's not like a $75 little micro flight controller. They're not asking an exorbitant amount of money for this flight controller in my mind, because it includes everything on there. I mean, you have one tiny little stack right here going because of that all-in-one flight controller. You have everything on there, your VTX, your PDB, and all that good stuff. So you just have to run the ESC straight to it and the motors, and you're good. Now also, guys, the ESCs up inside here, I did say those are 7 amp, and they're running a peak of 10 amp in there, and that's pretty nice. They also have D-Shot 300 on there already programmed into those ESCs, so I can run 1 to 2 S LiPo, like I was saying. And the weight on these are 1.1 gram each, so they're super light. But Justin, how do I bind it up to my Tyrannus? How does this little tiny micro receiver bind up? You can see it right there. There's a little tiny bind button in there, and you're going to have to press that and hold it while pressing the bind button on your FR Sky transmitter. Look at this prop guard set up close. Now, it doubles as 2 things. It is prop guards, and it's part of your center stack here for this little Mosquito 70. Now, you'll also notice if you look at it up close, if I can get the camera to focus on it, it's not 3D printed. This is actually plastic molded, and it's also gives a little bit. It has a little bit of flex in it, so I don't feel like it's going to break super easy, and I think it's going to be pretty decently durable. You would really have to smack this really hard for this to break. But then again, if you do break it, the parts aren't that expensive on the website. So the parts are actually pretty cheap. I think this is in the $6 range. Now when you take this off, if you decide to fly it without this on there, it's going to look like this. They also include some standoffs inside the box that you can raise this up, and 4 different bolts, little screws right here hold it on, so it's pretty easy to install and have it set up like this. If you're worried about breaking the props, I wouldn't worry too much because they're actually pretty durable. Now quickly, before we fly, let's go ahead and do a weigh-in. Let's set the micro Mosquito 70 on the scale, and I'm getting 44 grams right there. Let's go ahead and set the prop guard on there with it, and it jumps up to 50. So I'll turn that so you can see it. 50 grams. And let's go ahead and set a battery on there. And now we're looking at a total of 73 grams takeoff weight, under 100 grams takeoff weight, and 70 millimeters, super tiny. Now let's go ahead and weigh the King Kong. This is the 90 GT. and that one's 49 grams. So that one's also pretty light. You guys probably saw this one on the channel. This one's also a lot of fun, and around $150 for the King Kong 90 GT. Still also an awesome quad. And the Chaser 88, like I showed you guys before on the channel, this one's 76 grams. That's without the battery. So if I set the battery on there, we're looking at a total takeoff weight of 99 grams for that particular copter. Now also here it is sitting next to my modded Tiny Whoop with the Rack and Heli frame. Check out the scale here. It is super, super close. This is pretty awesome. It is quite a bit heavier. My Tiny Whoop actually weighs in pretty light. Let's show you that weight real quick. That's 20 grams. 22 grams, 21 grams without the battery. Super light Tiny Whoop, but Tiny Whoop doesn't have all the power that the Mosquito 70 has. Now here they are all together. This is the Chaser 88, the Micro. This is the Mosquito 70, and we have the King Kong 90 GT right here, the class of 2017 Micro Series. And so far, you're always asking me, oh, Justin, which one's better? Which one's better? Well, for the money, I'm going to say this guy is very, very awesome, but also kind of expensive. I would like to see that the total price on this one comes down a little bit. If you can fork out $250 for this one, do it. If you have it, spend it. You won't even remember spending that money on this quad. This one is around $150. You're still going to have a ton of fun with this one. And this one is probably one of the cheaper ones, but also heavier. And these props on here, these DYS 2030s, they kind of suck. So much better props on this one, flies better, a little heavier, the ultimate fun in the middle there, but the ultimate price. So let's go ahead and go out now, and let's do some Furious FPV Mosquito 70 flying.